Hi everyone, welcome. I'm preparing to check in on this tray over here of red wiggler worms to give them a feeding. It's been 20 days since the last feeding. And down here in my wormery, I like to kind of try different things, whether it's running systems in different types of containers, such as in the buckets down here, or possibly feeding in certain ways where we go through different feeding patterns or feeding styles. In this particular case, with these red wigglers, what we tried soon after the system was launched was adapting their menu plan to be a little different from what most systems get. Most of my systems have their foods frozen before they get placed into the worm bins, but with these little guys, I believe the first 3 meals were probably frozen, but I believe it was on the 4th meal, that we started giving them only non-frozen foods. So of the 22 feedings that this system has received over its 273-day lifespan, the 19 most recent feedings were non-frozen. The last feeding was a bunch of cranberry I found in a bag in my refrigerator, kind of getting old, and it was not only not frozen, but it was also blended. So that was a little bit of a treat for them, making it real easy for them to eat that stuff. So we're probably not going to see anything as far as leftovers go, not only because it was blended, but also because it was 20 days ago. And the other thing we did last time was we found that the material seemed a little bit dry, so we gave it a good soaking. So hopefully we've got a system there that's been well fed and still has a good moisture content, but after 20 days, who knows? I'm going to get a glove on, we're going to get that system up on the bench, and we're going to see how they're doing. And we're going to give them a nice little meal. Cucumber is what's on the menu today. Not frozen cucumber, and you can see it's a little bit yellow. So these, this is actually 2 cucumbers chopped up into bits that I had sitting around for a little bit too long. They went yellow on me, which I guess just means they're a little bit overripe. Don't know if maybe I could have just eaten them anyway, but I've got so many cucumbers growing outside that I'm sharing with friends and family, and heck, why not share with the worms too, right? And as far as moisture goes, I'm curious to see what we see in here. I came in with my spray bottle last time, dousing the system with a good bit of moisture. And my hope is that, at least down low, we've still got a good amount of moisture. With only paper coverings, it's fair to expect that the top surface may have had an opportunity to dry off a little bit. And that does seem to be the case here, but as I start to probe down a little bit deeper, it feels to me like the moisture level is quite nice down low. Oh, look at that. Good many worms hanging out a little bit low. When the worms are hanging out down low like that, it kind of makes me worry a little bit that perhaps the material is a bit too dry. I got my spray bottle here, so we could definitely apply a little bit more moisture again. Especially over here on the outskirts of the system. I'm pretty much finding no worms whatsoever out here. So it almost makes me wonder if perhaps besides applying some moisture, alright, I just paused the camera there for a moment so I could take that call. So what was I saying? Probably talking about moisture and the absence of worms over here on the edge as I'm plowing through. Definitely seems like if the system were a little bit more damp, we would see a good bit more worm traffic out here on the edges. So why don't we check this other edge as well? Oh yeah, maybe I was about to say something along the lines of possibly giving the system plastic coverings so that whatever moisture it has can remain in the system versus it being lost to evaporation with only the paper coverings. I guess once summer started kicking in and the humidity started to get pretty high, I found that most of my systems were getting a little bit overly damp, and I began retiring the plastic coverings on most of my systems. But there has already been one other system where I did restore plastic coverings because I started to see the system becoming a bit dry, and I'm starting to wonder if that might be the the solution to this system, having a somewhat better and more consistent moisture content throughout. Luckily, there's a good many castings up in the top surface here that have been protecting the lower levels from getting too dry. But I really prefer to have the entire system really productive versus just the lower end of the system being productive. So yeah, I think we're going to definitely give the system a good dampening, and I think we'll do that at the end. So I've kind of tilled up the outer edges. Now we can kind of make our way to the middle. That pulverized cranberry they got last time was applied right down the middle, and I think there was also maybe a napkin or paper towel or some sort of larger chunk of paper deployed right alongside of it or right beneath it. So that too, I would assume, is probably consumed by the worms. And here's some other things that look like they were, once upon a time, they were the seeds of some mango. I tried to do like this interesting little hacking job. I put some slits into it so that worms can get access in and out of the seed so that they can eat the inside of it. And then eventually they'll eat the husk too, but that usually takes a little bit longer. Here too I found some other leftovers of something which I can't even identify. I'm not sure quite what it is, but it seems to be breaking up. Feels like the stem of something, so it feels like it's well on its way to getting broken down. Some more stem of something. I guess besides not freezing stuff, I started also putting in things that I anticipated to be somewhat slower composting foods, and I wonder if this could be some of that sort of stuff. Whatever it is. Yeah, you know, these worms do look a little bit slim. When the worms start to get a little bit dehydrated, they lose some of their body mass. So I think these little guys will definitely appreciate getting some extra moisture added to their system. So I'm glad I got my water bottle on standby here so we can douse them after we fed them. So I still keep bumping into little types of little food scraps here and there. Some of this stuff, I don't know what this is. This might be a avocado pit, but a really tough one for some reason. Usually avocado pits after a little while do soften up and I can crumble them, but for whatever reason that one seems very tough. So I've got my prepared bedding here on standby as well. So I figured we would give them a nice generous amount of bedding down the middle, onto which we can put the cucumber, and then we'll come in with the spray bottle and give the whole system a nice dampening. I'll have to grab a plastic sheet, possibly a sheet of bubble wrap would be kind of a nice way to cover up. I like how the bubble wrap actually allows for a little bit of airflow beneath itself. And is this the system with the cork by any chance? And I wonder if this might be the cork. If this is the cork, I don't want to break it up, but it's so weird. If it is the cork, it feels almost like a good portion of it has suddenly gone missing or has been getting worked down. I'm not going to damage that, just in case it is the cork, because the cork is one of those things I just haven't been wanting to mess with in terms of breaking it up or helping it along. I just want to see how that thing breaks down on its own accord. And that's the sort of thing that's going to take years, because that cork's been floating around from worm bin to worm bin for numerous years now. Alright, just keep bumping into additional little chunks of food. And I somehow always feel like I want to try to chip some of it up apart into little bits and pieces if I can. But yeah, I think we're all set to go. Let's go ahead and get at the feeding of these little guys. I replenished my supply of prepared bedding here, so we got a nice generous portion for them. This is a combination of shredded paper and cardboard with some leaves mixed in, and then I prepare it with a good bit of moisture as well. But we're not going to leave it at that. We're going to almost go overboard on dampening this system. And I think that'll also help a lot by providing them with a nice spray down at the end too. Yeah, this stuff, yeah, I prepared it moist, but it doesn't feel all that damp, so applying a little bit of additional moisture to this bedding isn't going to hurt either. And you know, perhaps we can also give them a little bit of pulverized eggshell too, to serve as grit. Yeah, that's a pretty nice feeding, which I think they're going to appreciate. So before we cover up, I'm going to come in here with a little bit of moisture for the fresh feeding. I mean, the moisture is not going to go into the cucumber. Cucumber itself already has a good bit of moisture just on its own. This is more for the paper, the shredded paper and cardboard that's beneath the feeding, to get that nice and damp. And, well, before we backfill the feeding area, let's make sure we get all this stuff down the middle too. All these little scraps of leftover this and that we encountered along the way. And I think that looks pretty good. The system definitely looks nice. A lot of really nice castings starting to pile up here. So I think we'll cover up the feeding zone here. Try to level everything off nicely. And then we'll give the whole thing a nice spray down. Perhaps we can even give the outer edges a little bit of an additional spray down, since the middle section, just by nature of having all that juicy cucumber placed into it, already has a nice dose of moisture added via the foods. But the outer sections that are pretty much just castings only, those are the sections that I think could probably benefit from a good bit of moisture, because I'm sure it's not just castings only. I'm sure there's various scraps of bedding and food and whatnot mixed in everywhere. And as long as we get everything moistened properly, the worms will be able to cruise through that stuff and continue breaking it all down, rather than feeling the need to shy away from it and steer clear because it's just too dry to hang out in. So it's pretty fortunate that this system is able to dispense a good bit of moisture pretty quickly. Although it feels like the pressure in it is not as high as it could be, but that's okay. I'll just let it go for a little while. Make sure we dampen things nicely here. I mean, the thorough dampening we gave them last time probably helped a lot, but it clearly didn't get things very damp. So this is going to help a lot, I think. It should make the worms really happy. And then after we cover up with plastic, I think the system's going to become super productive. Hopefully the worms will even start to regain some of their body mass by having a little bit more moisture at their disposal, rather than feeling the need to sort of slim down and preserve their moisture content of their bodies. Hopefully the dampening of the surrounding material will sort of help them swell up and become a little bit more chunky in size. So the only thing I don't really have handy right now is the plastic covering, and it's right over there on the shelf, and I'll go get that after we finish here, but I don't got to keep you around for that. That's really just a formality, sort of homework for me, and I'll take care of that after the camera's done rolling. So that's it for the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.